years of promoting it, their publicist said, if we can just take out some of that and make it more secular, we'll be able to reach more families. And they believed that the message was more powerful, so that's what they did. And it's written, the curriculum was developed by Jim Fay and by Foster Klein. Jim Fay is a former administrator of schools, and Foster Klein is a medical doctor, psychiatrist that has worked with children, actually did a lot of the groundbreaking work with attachment and reactive attachment disorder. And those are some of the most ill-behaved children and the most troubled children. And so this program came out of two men that were working in like Boulder, Colorado, and working with some of the most difficult children. And what they did is they came up with these, Jim was struggling in his school setting, and they came up with these different skills that they knew that other successful parents were doing. They didn't create these themselves. They literally just said, parents that have really successful outcomes are doing these types of skills. And they've tweaked them and researched them and, improved them over the years. So what do you think, though, would be a sign that you have success in your parenting?
There's no screaming in the house.
Okay. Well, so like we want to say maybe as your kids get older or while you're parenting?
About different topics.
So your kids want your opinion?
Yeah.
Okay. What else would be a sign of successful parenting?
They feel loved.
Okay.
Confidence.
Okay.
You become more approachable to them.
They don't put you out in the retirement home, right? They want to keep you close when you get older. So that's our goal. Our goal really is to keep our kids having relationships with them as they become adults, right? And we want to know that we've prepared our kids as best as we can for the adult working world, right? And so that's what the goals are, with Love and Logic. And they know that one of the key things to any kind of a parenting or successful program is relationship. And that's what they found, relationship and then empathy. Okay, so these skills that they were teaching people, there was so many parents that were having such great success, and then there was other parents that were not having very much success. And so they looked at the two groups of parents, and what they found is that the parents that were using empathy first, before they did the consequences or before they, whenever they handled a difficult situation, they always led with empathy. Those were the parents that were having the greatest success, okay? And one of their sayings is that, empathy allows whatever problems kids are having, or whoever the person is, empathy allows them to have their problem. If it's their problem, they get to keep it, okay? When we use anger or frustration, then it becomes our problem. And that was a success that they found out. So Love and Logic is the two founding things are relationship strengthening and empathy. And so now I'm just going to tell you a few things about myself so you'll know who's this lady and why is she telling you this. So my oldest son is 36, and I had read about Love and Logic because at that time we were just using timeout and you weren't allowed to spank your kids anymore. Well, they were, saying not to spank your kids anymore. Now, you don't spank your kids, okay? What'd you say?
Not in public.
Yeah, not in public, right. But so I wanted to try to use something else. I didn't want to hit my kids, really. I didn't want to. So I started reading different things, and so I knew a little bit about Love and Logic, but I never took the class. I never went through the whole program. And they offer a 6-week program, and this is the workbook that the parents get from it. And it's about 12 hours altogether, and they go through their whole parenting from ages 3 all the way up to like 19 or 20. So there's something for parents of all those age groups. Anyway, so I have 5 children. They're 36, 34, 32, 26, and just turned 18.
God bless you.
Yeah. And they're all from the same baby daddy. Everybody always wants to know that, and I'm Catholic, not Mormon. That's the second question that I would get.
Oh, wow.
When I was having my babies, they'd say 4th baby or 3rd baby. Well, she's Catholic, she's Catholic, so that's why I always study that. And, like I said, so when I didn't know Love and Logic really well before, but when my 18-year-old was 8 years old, that's when I was introduced to Love and Logic. I was introduced to Love and Logic when I started working for Teen Health Connection. Teen Health Connection is an adolescent medical practice that's partnered with Atrium, and they have a very exclusive relationship because Teen Health Connection is a nonprofit. And my sister's the executive director there, so I'm just going to tell you, it's a phenomenal program. It's the only adolescent medical practice in the whole Piedmont region and area. And we have 2 specialist doctors that I used to work there, I don't work there anymore. But anyway, so they would pay for me to go out into the community. And I was teaching this every single week, almost every single day. Before I became the facilitator for them doing Love and Logic, or while I was doing that, I also ran a girls program. It was called GEMS there. And the GEMS program was for at-risk, high-needs adolescent girls. And I did that for 4 years for them. Before I did that, I was a special ed teacher at Harding University, right here down the road. So when they gave me the address, I was like, I know where you are, because I was working over there. And I worked at Harding for 3 years, right when they did the big switch over. Y'all remember that? When it was real rough, okay? And that first year was the hardest year. So I have a little bit of street cred, you know. I've been around a little bit, okay? And I know what it's like to work with really angry, difficult people. And I know what made me successful. And the number one thing that made me successful was relationships. I had worked on having strong relationships with my students. I didn't do so well with my own children. I was more successful with my students than I was my own children. Have you all heard of the helicopter parent? Yeah. So Love and Logic coined that term. Okay, they're the ones that defined what is a helicopter, parent. And now they say we have a jet-packed turbo parent, right? Where we just swoop in and and we want to rescue and save our kids. And I can tell you that I wanted to rescue and save my child, not because I thought it was partly because I was trying to be a good mom. But there was another reason why. Why do you think parents are so trying to save their kids from something? What do you think it is?
We don't want them to hurt.
Okay, we don't want them to hurt. Good, really good.
It reflects quality on us.
Yeah, that's the number one reason right there. It's our egos, right? Yeah, it's about us looking bad, And here I was working at our church. I was a catechist. I was a Eucharistic minister, and I was taking my kid out and slapping him in the face. I'm serious. I'm not proud about it, I wasn't doing real well with my own kids. I was the drill sergeant at home. I used to tell them, I'm the brick wall. You just slammed into it. That's how I disciplined them, But when we were out at school and I was volunteering and I was all those great roles that I was doing as the parent, I was the helicopter mom. I was making sure that you don't have your book bag. I was running back home. I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning doing projects with them, rescuing, saving them. I didn't want them to hurt. And I didn't want to make myself look like I didn't have my stuff together, So, and that's keeping it real, all right? So, when I started to learn about Love and Logic, I'd be facilitating, I'd be on the phone texting my kids, and I'd be saying, remember when? I'm so sorry. Can I redo? And I want to tell you that the most exciting thing for me is that today, I just came back from a 12-day trip with my oldest son from Costa Rica. And he took me. He paid, right? And he's a quadriplegic too. He's a disabled quadriplegic. He had an accident when he was 21 years old. And but anyway, so to me, there's my success, right? They're not going to stick me in any retirement home, I promise you. Okay? And all my kids live about 20 minutes away, no farther than 20 minutes away. But I had to do a lot of work the last 10 years. And that's what's really exciting about Love and Logic is that we can redo relationships, okay? We can repair things. And so in the very first module, I told you there's 6 modules. And we have handouts that we're going to get out to y'all a little bit later on, okay? We got to make some copies and stuff in the next week or so. We'll get those to you. But the very first module, you know how they say that, we know that when you're doing a talk or something, you only have somebody's attention for 20 minutes? I know we do that with students, and I think it's true with some adults too. We lose you after the first 20 minutes, Some good presenters can keep you holding on a little bit longer. So our very first module, we talk about that. We talk about how to neutralize arguing and how to strengthen the bonds and the relationships with your kids. So if you learned right now and you went home and you only learned how to get your kids to stop arguing, back-talking, and begging you, would that be worth it to you?
Hallelujah.
Okay. Here's the fun part. I'm not going to tell you how to get them to stop doing it. I'm going to show you how to stop doing it. okay? Because it takes two to tango, and we're the adults, okay? And even though some of us are still frustrated and hurt and, angry little kids inside of these adult bodies, we still are the ones that have to be emotionally stable. When they talk about Maslow's, hierarchy of needs, the number one need is safety and security. Okay? And it's not just safety in a house, because I've worked with kids that are homeless. I've worked with kids that are, that are in transition, McKinney V kids. It's not where you live. It's how you live where you live that makes the difference. Okay? It doesn't matter about your socioeconomic status if you have an emotionally secure home. And that's what the difference is, and that's what we're trying to work on here and teaching you guys some of these different relationship things from that perspective, okay? So when I say emotionally secure, and I make jokes about us being little kids in adult bodies, because some of us are. Thank you.
I know I am.
So the emotionally secure home is where the adult is demonstrating that a kid can't provoke us. That the kid can't, say something, because they're going to. And I'm going to be speaking specifically right now of adolescents, okay? And adolescents, in their developmental process, is natural. It's normal for them to manipulate you, to try to provoke you, to try to get you to get their way from you all the time, to push you away. That's a part of their developmental process, all right? How we respond to that is going to define whether or not they are successful in their self-concept development or not. And I can tell you where I messed up, and that's where the drill sergeant was not safe, right? They didn't want to come and tell me when they made a mistake, because mistakes were not learning opportunities. Mistakes were punishable, all right? And in Love and Logic, we teach that you have consequences, natural consequences. And we look for our kids to make mistakes. We're excited when they make mistakes, because we know that every single one of those mistakes is a chance to us to first model empathy, hand back that problem to them, and then allow them to handle their problems, fix their mistakes, or fix whatever they've done, and be there on their side and support them. And if they don't get it right the first, second, or third time, that's okay. You can keep trying till you get it right, But we allow them to do that. By us doing that also, another secondary benefit of that is that any time, somebody wants to develop their kids' self-esteem, we want to have kids with a strong self-concept and a really strong self-esteem, right? The best way to, first of all, self-esteem. Can any parent praise their kids into a strong self-esteem?
No.
Nope. How do we get our self-esteem? It's called right? Esteem. So kids have to learn how to self-esteem themselves. And the best way to do that, if you think your kids are weak in that area, give them something broken. Let them fix something. Let them create something. Let them build something. Let them fix their own mistakes. When they're mending their own ways, they're digging inside themselves, and they're touching into their own creative spirit. And they're having to get, into their own imagination, and they're finding out, I can do this. I broke this, but I can fix something, okay? So when we're using empathy, and we're the adults, and we're showing them that we have emotional stability, we're creating an emotionally safe environment. And that emotionally safe environment is reinforcing to our kids that, that we are wanting to have a strong relationship with them, okay? Just so y'all know, I am going right off memory right now, okay? And I haven't taught this for a long time, so if I circle around on something, try to follow me, okay? And if I lose my point, raise your hand and say, what were you saying about that thing over there? I'm open to that. Tell me to come on back, and I'll restate something that I was talking about. All right, so the first thing that we want to teach you is when kids are arguing with you. Anybody want to tell me what it sounds like? Anybody want to volunteer and say what it sounds like when someone's arguing or begging or back-talking you? Well, tell me what it sounds like. What would your kids say?
It's like a bulldozer is running you over.
Okay, right? So maybe kids might say something like, I hate you, you're mean. All the other parents let their kids do it, right? Why can't I do it? You don't understand. You don't love me, right? You only had kids to have, slaves in your house.
Right.
How many of you heard that?
I heard it all, honey.
Okay. And so
Last Tuesday.
The only thing that we want you to be practicing, or we call them one-liners, all right? and this is one of the handouts that you're going to get later, all right? But your
It's really hard,
one-liners,
though, when someone's yelling and screaming at you, and you're like, why are you doing that? Like, I don't
So-
understand.
so with a one-liner, what we want you to say is, I'm going to, I already know what they are, so I'm just going to tell you. So the one-liners that we want you to say, the hardest one is, I love you too much to argue with you. I'm a drill sergeant parent. You know how hard it was for me to say that? I would be squeezing my steering wheel saying, I've had a hard day today, honey. I'm almost not arguing, right? It took me a long time for me to really say, I love you too much to argue with you. I wanted to say, get in the car and shut your mouth and I don't want to hear it. You know what I mean? It's like I wanted to tell him that. Because I'm tired too. I just drove all this way up home, you know? But I couldn't. So I kept practicing. And then I realized that a part of it, remember I talked about the little kids inside of us adult bodies? You know, that little kid in me, she was hurt, she was mad, she was angry. And we were going through a very difficult change in our family system and the dynamics. And so sometimes the kids feel it, right? So it took me a while, but I realized that when I changed the tone of my voice, and I call it going low and slow. And when we whisper, we really get our kids' attention. And if you're a screamer or a yeller and you start whispering, they're like, oh, what happened? What happened to Mom? She's gone, right? But when we go low and slow, what happens? They lean in because they want to hear what you're saying. And then when I go low into my heart and I say with my heart, I love you too much to argue with you. And then I walk away. Because I'm not going to keep standing there for them to keep arguing with me, right?
What if they follow you?
They do that all the time.
And then you go in your room and you lock your door.
And then
you
I've
lock the door.
had parents where the kids actually got a hammer and hammered down that doorknob, okay? And so, and what I want to tell you is that if your relationship dynamics with your kids are to that degree where a child feels, or a young person feels like that they have that ability in their home, right? And they're going to take those kinds of liberties in their home, there's some other things that need to get addressed. But we would say stick with the first module. Just stick with module 1 because that's relationship healing, that's relationship repair, okay? And relationships is what gives people that sense of consequence. We've all had a favorite teacher, right? We've had somebody we really liked a lot, or new best friend. And if they ask us to do something, are we going to do it for them?
Yeah.
So that's where we know that relationships give consequences their power. We don't want to, we want to just use the strength of our relationship. And so sometimes, like I said, it takes time to rebuild and to rebuild. And one of the first things is kids are going to test you. They're going to test you over and over again, especially if you come home and you start saying, I love you too much, I'm not going to argue with you. You know, I love you too much to argue with you. And then we don't argue. And then they come off with all these kinds of manipulations, right? I'm so sorry, I promise I'll never do it again. I am so sorry. Please, I'll do anything you want me to. I'll clean the kitchen for a whole week. Just please let me go to the party. It's so important to me. Please, I promise I've learned my lesson forever, right? That was my pitfall. Because I was like, oh, they have contrition. You know? No, there was no contrition there. That was just manipulation. I found out much later on, okay? So then the second step that we would say after I love you too much to argue with you is nice try. Real boring, real dull, nice try. And then you might get something like
Screaming.
and nice try at what? What are you talking about, nice try? Nice try at trying to get me to change my mind or to argue. I love you too much. I'm not arguing. And then, if they keep doing that, then we go to our next, and this is like the final one, and these really truly are the most powerful words I've ever used with my kids.
Go to your room.
No, but that's good.
Nice try.
Make me.
It is, and what did I say? And what did I say? I didn't hear you. I don't know what you said. That's the empathetic response, by the way. I guess if it was that important to me, I might be listening. I'll talk to you later when you're calmed down. because I love you too much to argue with you. And you just keep walking away, keep walking away. The other mom that got the doorknob handle down, she also took her kid's cell phone. I'm just going to tell you, okay? So mom was adding gasoline to the argument at that time as well. So, and they had seriously had some lot of different problems going on. My time at Teen Health Connection, I can't tell you the thousands of parents that I worked with. And yeah, there was a few parents that would say BS on this program. There's no way, I don't buy any of this, and that's okay. I would say if only you take what I'm going to tell you right now about neutralizing arguing, and then the next steps that I'm going to tell you about strengthening the bonds. If you did nothing else but that, I promise your household's going to be different. And you can use that, I don't want to argue with you, with the customer service people at Verizon too, and the airport people, and anybody else that's giving you a hard time. And you know, it's not your problem, it's their problem, but they don't want to own it, right? Because they don't want to get in trouble for their mistakes. You just say, look, I don't want to argue with you. You know, how are you going to handle this? That's all. I'm your customer, and I really like my phone service, so you tell me, how are we going to work this out? You know, I don't want to argue with you. And it's amazing when you tell people that and you go low and slow. I don't want to argue. So it works in lots of other areas, okay? So we do those 3-liners. There's other 1-liners that you can come up with, and you want to find the same one over and over again. What's really key is that whatever you say it from your heart, and you're saying it with that I love you too much, okay? And one of the things about us not teaching our kids to argue back with us is that when in our home we're modeling the real world, the adult world, right? And we're teaching our kids that when we're arguing with them, that arguing is how you get your way, okay? We see that already everywhere. That doesn't work, okay? So now let me tell you about the strengthening of the bonds. There's a few things that you can do every single day. The first one is make every hello and goodbye a meaningful event, all right? And we are talking about adolescents here, so adolescents don't always want you to what? Hug them. Right.
Touch them, kiss them.
So, right. So we can do a fist pump, you know, we can do the elbow thing, we can, you know, shoulders, whatever, right? We want to make it where they're comfortable enough, but the most important thing that makes it a meaningful event is when we do eye contact and we smile. And we want to touch somehow, all right? Even if it's let's do a soft slide, okay? Just come on, give me a down low soft one, you know what I mean? Because you want it to be a tender touch, you want it to be eye contact, and you want it to be a smile. Does anybody know what that kind of bonding is called? Infancy bonding. Infancy bonding. And that's, you know, they've all the research that they've done, that's why we have people that come into the NIC units, right? And you have volunteers, it's okay, as long as they have a human person smiling at this baby and looking in that little tiny baby's eyes, right? And touching that baby. It's so powerful. So we want to make every hello and goodbye a meaningful event by doing smile, hand, touching them somehow in a way that they're comfortable with, okay? And then we also want to, smile, eye contact, and touch. Okay. Then the other one that we want to do is we want to love them even when they're behaving badly. And that's what's really hard. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because we want to do the smackdown on them, mm-hmm. and we can't. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure that whatever they're doing, that we are showing them, you know, I love you. I don't like anything you're doing. You're not handling yourself well. There's some things that, you know, you're going to have to work on here. But I love you. My love for you doesn't stop when your behavior gets out of control. And so, but that doesn't mean I'm giving in. That doesn't mean they get to have the keys to the car or go to the party, okay? That means that I still love you. And then, so we want to love them when they're behaving badly. And then we use the neutralizing arguing. That's also really powerful for the bonding because remember, that's showing them that we're emotionally safe, we're emotionally stable, okay? And then the last one that we want to do is we don't use any sarcasm, okay? We just stop all sarcasm. And it's really hard, but they, you know, because we live in the South, right? Sarcasm is our culture, all right? And so we just want to, you know, try to tone down that sarcasm.
That's hard.
Yeah. Now you had a question or something that you wanted to say, and I apologize.
I was just rewind a little bit about. It's not you, it's me.
Mm-hmm.
Just go back about the relationship when they had to fix the relationship. I think you were saying that at the beginning. I'm so sorry it took so long to get to.
I was just saying that, you know, that the great thing is that by practicing these rebonding skills, and becoming emotionally stable myself, and not reacting to my kids anymore, and letting them know that I'm not going to argue, I'm not going to give in, I am firm and I am stable, that I was able to change the relationships with my kids, okay? And so when my 26-year-old was living a life that was really out of control, and he couldn't manage his life because he couldn't manage substances, and he had crashed 4 cars, he called and wanted to use my Honda. And I was like, you're not driving my Honda, you know? I'm sorry, I can't let you use it. And he's on the phone berating me. Hey, if it was Tommy, you'd let Tommy use it. If it was, you know, no, I can't believe it. You know, this is why none of your adult kids want to have anything to do with you, right? And I just kept saying, you know what? I think on that one I said, nice try. I said, nice try. And then I was getting tired, and I didn't want to talk to him anymore. He's too old, and I'm tired. And we're on the phone, and we're on his Bluetooth in the car, all right? And so I have my younger son, who I'm practicing love and logic with, and I think we've been doing it for like 2.5 years now. And so I said to him, I said, Stephen, what did I say? And what did I say? And then this kid pops off, you ain't getting the car. Because he had learned that I'm done now, okay? And I can tell you that over time, me becoming emotionally stable, it was actually that was the one that said, Mom, as soon as your pitch goes up, whenever you use that tone, I block you out. I can't hear you. And
that kind of goes in with spouses conversation with each other too.
Does. Yeah, we have love and logic for the married couple
Yeah,
too.
we do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, there's a love and logic.
That sounds very interesting.
Yeah. But I mean,
I'll
and
give
you
you the
know,
books.
and really, it is me, you know, taking advantage of my authority of my kids when I think I can yell and berate them, right?
Yeah.
It is me taking, you know. I just did the best job I could, you know. I'm not judging myself. I just did the best job I could with what I had at that time. Like all of us do. Nobody is perfect. There's a lot of parents that do some really great things, and then there's areas that we're weak in, you know? And that's the thing I love about Love and Logic is that we just want to help strengthen so that you have less stress in your parenting, okay? So, let's see. I've got technically 15 more minutes, y'all.
Technically, yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, I'm going to go through this really quick. Any questions on what I just told y'all? This is one of the classic things. Love and Logic has 2 rules, okay? The first rule is that the adults set firm limits in loving ways without anger, lecture, or threats.
Oh, say that again.
Adults set firm limits in loving ways without anger, lecture, or threats. And then rule number 2. When a child causes a problem, the adult hands it back in a loving way. And in a loving way, the adult holds the child accountable for solving his or her problems in a way that does not make problems for others. So we don't ground the whole group, okay? And if one kid's doing something, the other kids don't have to get consequenced for it, all right? Children are offered choices within limits. I want to give my kids choices because I want them to have a sense of control. In a healthy way, a healthy amount of control, okay? Adults use enforceable statements, and adults provide delayed or extended consequences. The adult's empathy is locked in before any consequences are delivered. So this here where it says we provide delayed and extended consequences, I'm going to go over that with you, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the choices within limits, and that part is mainly speaking again to adolescents, all right? So let's talk about adolescents for a few minutes here. And I can tell you that I work with some of the experts in our area because the Teen Health Connection, that's what they do, 11 through 23, okay? They have some great programs if you guys want to get your kids involved over there. They have after-school programs and stuff. With teenagers, their body starts to change, okay? We know. Things pop out, hair grows, they stink, things like that, right? They are out of control. They have no control of how their body is changing, how their body's developing. And a lot of that being out of control is very uncomfortable for them. You know, you have some young girls that develop so quickly, and then they're looked at much older than what they are, you know. And then you have some girls that are underdeveloped. And the same with boys. You have some boys that just sprout out and they're real muscular. And then you have some kids that just those little late bloomers that just take them a minute before they develop. But then we smash them all into this middle school, And this high school, where we wake them up way too early for high school, we're messing up their whole biological, that circadian rhythm and all that, right? It's the worst thing that we do in America, that early sending them to school at 7 o'clock in the morning. They are not awake, okay? So they're not getting enough sleep. So we know they're not getting enough sleep. Then they're told to go to this school. And some kids adjust well and they enjoy school. But a lot of kids are struggling with being told what to do by their teachers, okay, and then not having any control over things that are going on. Their body, for one, their hormones, their emotions. They are so emotional at this time, and that's the natural part of their development. And so then, if you imagine if we're at home and we're upset because they're upset, it's just that whole domino effect of everything gets spinning out of control. And that's why adolescent development is very difficult in our homes. Also, the 3 leading causes of adolescent death. Do y'all know what that is? Suicide?
Depression? It would be depression. I don't know.
Well, suicide, depression would be one.
Substance abuse,
What'd you say?
drug overdose.
Yep, substance use.
Car accidents.
And car accidents. All 3 of those are behaviors. We are losing kids to behaviors, not to an illness, okay? And we know that's why we know that all the evidence shows us that it's really difficult for a teenager to be a teenager. But does that mean we let them run all over us? No. Does that mean that we're going to give them the keys and buy them a cell phone because they want one and replace their cell phone and replace their cell phone and replace their car, pay for their car insurance? No, never. Love and Logic never tells you to give your kids a cell phone. They never tell you to give your kids, buy them a car. Because you want your kids to learn how to work for what is theirs. And if you have an agreement where they can drive the family car, and if it's the beat-up car, it's even better. We want them to drive the car that costs a lot of gas, okay? Because that's even going to teach them more about how they're going to, save their money for more gas money. And that's really preparing them for that adult world, okay? And so they need to have a certain amount of control in their life because they're so out of control in so many other areas. I mean, remember when I was talking about we go to the school and they don't always want to be there? There's so much peer pressure that these kids face every single day. I was amazed when I would listen to these girls tell me the stories. Now, I know mainly from the girls because I did the girls group. The pressure for sex, for using substances, to be a mean girl. Mean girls get pressured to be mean girls, And there's just so much that they, even just on the bus to school, just getting to school, surviving, And so then they come home, they're socially exhausted. Oh, by the way, they have to have boyfriends, they have to be in a group, they have to, be in a club, or they have to, all this stuff, right?
Latest stuff.
Yes, exactly. Keep up with the trends.
$100 shoes.
And then, to get into the shoe game, right? But then they come home and they're emotionally exhausted. What's the first thing most parents say to their kids when they walk in the door?
Have any homework?
Get your homework done. Get your chores done.
Right. Instead of giving them the option, remember I said choices, healthy choices. Everybody loves control, right? And I'm going to steal one of Charles Fay's little stories. How desperate do you spend, how much time do you spend searching for your remote control? When you lose your remote control, right, you're digging in the couch, where's the remote control? God forbid you have to walk 5 feet to the TV and turn it on. We won't do that anymore, right? We want control. Give me liberty or give me control. That's right. Give me liberty, give me that. It's a human nature, okay? But we need to have control in a healthy way. So we give our kids choices like, you want to get your room cleaned up by Saturday, or you think you can do it Friday night? Because either one works for me, okay? Or it could be Saturday or before church on Sunday, or after church on Sunday. You give them 2 only choices that work, okay? And then when kids are really little, you can say, you want your lights on or off? Do you want to, you want to eat dinner before you do your homework or after you do your homework? I'm not saying don't do your homework. So you can let them have control. And when they get into middle school and high school, you can ask them, as long as I'm providing you the space, a cleared space, whatever technology they need, in, a quiet environment, you let me know when's the best time for you to get your homework done. It's amazing how much work they'll do and how much harder they'll work. And you can say, and I don't want to have to be doing this for more than 30 minutes. You got more than 30 minutes of homework? And if a kid has more than 30 minutes of homework, you want to, be finding out why. Because maybe an hour when they get in high school if they're taking AP and stuff like that. But even then, you want to provide them with that space, okay? But we let them choose those kinds of things. And it's amazing how much more they're cooperating with us. Do you want to have yeah, I'd let you use my car as long as you have it filled up with gas when you return it. Those kinds of choices, enforceable statements, which is the next one, which is what I just gave you. An enforceable statement is where when kids come up or that we want to redirect their behavior, or redirect something that they're doing. I'm going to get my cheat thing here, and I'm going to read you what is an enforceable statement. An enforceable statement is something that I know I can do. Remember I said I love you too much to argue with you? I know I can silence myself. I have to go brain dead. Go to Calgon, take me away. Charles says he goes fishing. We go someplace else because I can control me. And that's all I can control, right? And so an enforceable statement is something that I know I can control. So that you're grounded for the rest of your life, we can't control that, right? We can't control things that are going on in other people's homes. When parents get divorced, we can't control what they're doing at the other home. We can't control what they're doing at school. We can control what we're doing here at the house. And if a kid causes a problem, I'll have to do something about that. But we don't tell them what we're going to do because we don't even know what we're going to do yet, right? But as long as you tell them, I'm going to have to do something about that. And then you take a time, you get yourself cooled off, and then you come up with what's the most natural consequence, right? And it's got to be a consequence that you know you can enforce yourself. So here's some examples of enforceable statements, okay? We will eat as soon as you're seated. Sit down, we're getting ready to eat now. Everybody get over here. Y'all get over here and sit down. We're giving directives, okay? We're not using an enforceable statement. Please be quiet. I can't listen to your brother when you're both talking at the same time. She did say please. I'll be glad to listen to you as soon as your brother has finished talking to me. I can listen to you when your brother's done. We try to get away from some of the directives. Why do you think that is?
It's kind of command. It's not something they can put a wall up.
And so when we're using directives too, anybody here think that they're stubborn? Any of y'all? Anybody want to admit?
Like that we're stubborn?
Yeah. I never knew how stubborn I was until I learned Love and Logic. And I realized this is why I would be so frustrated. When people start telling me what to do, I get really frustrated. And it's because I got this stubborn streak in me. And so that's the same thing with our kids. We don't want to be using, it's just a personality thing. And it's just an effective leadership when we say, clean your room, get your room cleaned up, or I'll be happy to take you, blah, 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 or I'll be, you're free to do what you would like as soon as you get your room done. Okay? Let's see. I'll be happy to play ball with you as soon as everything's quiet. As soon as y'all settle down. I'll be happy to do that for you. I listen to people who do not yell at me. You talking about people shouting and screaming at you? I'll listen to you when you can, when you're not yelling at me. I'll listen to you when you got yourself, put together, When you can handle, you might want to take a time out right now and go handle yourself. Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to listen to you. Okay? If you don't want to take your time out, that's fine, but I'm going over here because I can't hear you when you're talking to me. And my goal is for me and you to get the same goal that you have. We all want to be winners in our house. There's no win-lose in our home. It's got to be win-win. And so I need to help win-win with you. But right now, you're really angry, and I can see that. And it kind of scares me for you. How angry you are. What are you scared for me for? Okay, well, all right, maybe rephrase that. I'm concerned. I can see that you're elevated in your emotional state. Use sense of humor. That's okay, as long as it's not sarcastic, right? But one of the things that when kids are starting to get out of control, we can say, I will listen to you, and how about, you find a place to go calm down? Instead of telling them, go to your room, we can say, you can go find a place to calm down. And if a kid goes out the front door, only thing we would suggest that you say is, how do you think that's going to work out? How do you think it's going to work out for you? Okay? My son walked down the road one time, down the driveway, and I wanted to go out, get back in this, and I was like, he's going down the driveway, and I just, hey, how do you think it's going to work out for you? Okay, get back in the house, And he sat down at the end of the driveway for a long time. He didn't take off down the road like I thought he was going to do. I think he would have taken off down the road, though, if I would have walked down at the end of the driveway and I would have started hollering at him. He would have said, I'm getting away from this crazy lady right now. But because I just said, how is this going to work out for you? Not me. How is this going to work out for you? Okay? Keep your hands to yourself. Well, feel free to stay with us when you can keep your hands to yourself. Feel free to stay and hanging out with us as long as you're not causing a problem. All right? You showed me some respect. How many times have kids ever told you, you don't respect me? Have you ever heard a kid say that to you? You don't respect me. Have you guys? I have. My teacher has no respect for me. Why should I respect her? She does this, she does this, she does this. Kids, that's a big thing, is respect. Okay? I know, especially in the high school level, you do not diss somebody and you do not disrespect somebody. That's a big thing. And one of the things that I would talk to the kids about right away is, anybody know the definition of respect? And most kids will answer, almost all the time, is fear. You fear somebody. I have fear for them, so I respect them. Or I let somebody control me. You want to talk about dysfunctional relationships? Because they say, well, my parents get to control me and I'm afraid of being punished. But that's what they want me to do. They want me to respect them. That's what they think respect is. So I'd say, well, let's look it up in the dictionary. Respect is to hold in high regard and to give great consideration to. That's what respect is. And so when we would be teaching respect in the classrooms, we would say, okay, who's got the best pair of shoes? You know, let me look at them. If I wanted to take my marker right now, what would you be doing? They'll be flipping out. You're not taking my shoes. Well, let me have your cell phone. You ain't touching my cell phone, right? And because they hold their phones in such high regard. They hold their shoes in such high regard. They hold their friends in very high regard, and most of the times more than us sometimes. Do we believe that, though? The most important person in our kid's life, almost 100 out of 100, unless there's something really not cool going on, okay? You ask a kid who's the most influential or most important person, and they're going to tell you, my family or my parents. Always. I've done so many workshops with teenagers, and they'll say that unless there's something going on. And even family, even kids that are, placed, right? Because I work with a lot of foster kids. Their families were still the most important. I don't care what was going on in that home. That family was still the most important thing to them. But I've done these workshops where I ask parents, and they'll say, oh, their media, their cell phone, their this, their that, that's the biggest influence. And at the same time, we have somebody asking the parent, the adolescents, and then we swap the sheets. And the parents are surprised to see my mom, my dad, my family, my grandmother. So just out of all of our experience, that's what we know. We are still so very influential with our kids. And that's why we want to take time to bond with them, to strengthen these relationships, use our one-liners to show them that we are emotionally stable, and that when they make a mistake, that they can come to us, okay? Because I know that if my daughter is getting in trouble with a boy, or she has friends that are peer pressuring her, or if she's even already using drugs, I want to be the one that she comes to. I don't want her going to somebody on the internet or somebody else down the road. I want her to know that no matter what happens, whatever mistakes they make, that I'm going to be alongside them and say, well, how are you going to handle this? How do you want to figure it out? Okay? And I can tell you, my kids, my adult kids too, they got in some big stuff, and I had to say, and how do you want to handle this? And that was the hardest thing, because, I'm a social worker. I don't want to fix stuff for people, And how do you want to handle it? This is yours. This is your disorder. How do you want to, handle this? I can't stop somebody from using something, right? So that's the same premise, with empathy, and we hand it back to them. That strengthens those bonds. That's what allows our kids to come home and talk to us about what's going on in their life. And then hopefully not put us in those old retirement homes, right? Where we don't want to be. So, okay, so anybody, I went over 3 minutes, so any questions?
So, how did write the book? You said in the beginning that it was Christian based, or it had scriptures to go along with it.
It used to have them in
Used
there.
to have. So that was my question. Is there a transcript that we can get? That we can get scriptures off of that?
Well, I can just tell you that, like, some of the references and stories that they make, that if you're reading the scriptures, you're going to know. where it is. Like he tells a story about Martha and Mary, one story, you know. They make references about things.
Make references.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really about like having that loving relationship with Father God, right? And, you know, and that kind of a dynamic, and how we want to feel safe going to God when we're in trouble, right? And so it's some of those kind of, that type of a thing.
Okay.
But I'm sure you could probably Google that, you know, scripture references that support the love and logic. If that's something you could
But if I
probably
read a
Google.
book now, it wouldn't necessarily have those scriptures. in it.
No. Mm-mm.
There's some that are out of print, but they're out there. You just have to find them.
Yeah, they're like the 40-year-old ones.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there's some that are out there.
Yeah.
You just have
eBay.
to find them.
Yeah. Any other questions about it? Or about what I shared? And I mean, you know what? One of the things that we're always trained is yeah, buts. I want a yeah, but. It's okay. You know, parents say, yeah, but that's not going on in my house. Yeah, but that won't work. Yeah, but I have a different, you know, circumstance. Yeah, but you don't understand. And so, when I would be trained with Jim and Charles, I was really fortunate through Teen Health Connection. I was going twice a year, and I was helping them with their facilitator training. So I got a chance to, you know, help them train the trainers. And that was one of the things too, is that, you know, we don't want to have all the answers, but we want to give you some skills, some practical skills that aren't always simple, that will help make your home a more loving, a more supportive home, but most of all, help parents have the authority that they need, you know, and that's their home. And so we want to help parents develop that loving authority. It seems like we went through a phase where parents were almost afraid to discipline our kids, you know, and so it's not even about punishment, but it's about letting them experience natural consequences. And it's hard for us to even figure out what some of those natural consequences are, you know, and so sometimes that's where the struggle is. But I'm talking about a 12-hour class that I'm giving you all a summary on.
Yeah.
So,
Now, at what age does it apply to all age?
yeah, so when you're, this particular curriculum that we use, I mean, it has stories from kids that are 2 years old, and it shows you how to use the different skills all the way from that young age and all the way up to older kids. So you were saying that there was like something that you said maybe you didn't think it would work with the little tiny ones, and it's the famous uh-oh. Man, do you remember that skill? They'd say, uh-oh, to a little tiny kid, like a 12-month-old that's just learning how to crawl and get around, right? And they're starting to pull something down off the table. And when you say that, uh-oh, and then you scoop them up, and then you pull them and you take them to the side, and you just say, you know, you just, and then you do that enough times, they know automatically, uh-oh, Babies learn. And I've seen the little kids do this. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen parents that are using this. And you can always tell a love and logic parent out in public, because they'll go up to their kids are starting to get out of control. You can see them go whisper in their ear, and the kids, and they get back, you know? So it's for all ages.
You know, some of the lines used early on, I can't see those words coming out of my mouth because they don't feel true to who I am. But, you know, like when I see us getting into it at the dinner table, I'll say to my son, we're on the same team here. You know, I'm saying this for you because this is what I think is in your best interest.
So what we want to, I would suggest that you flip it and you ask them how. So can you help me understand, or what do you think is in your best interest? And I love that, your best interest. I love that one. Okay, and I use that a lot with my kids, and I teach parents how to use that one too. So let's talk about how is this in your best interest, and that's what we always want to say is how is this in your best interest? Okay, and another little thing is when we use the word how instead of why. Okay, and because when you say something like well, why didn't you get your homework done, or why did you do that, or you know, whenever you say why versus well, how come you didn't get the homework done? Well, how come you were late today? So help me understand, or tell me what happened. How did this happen? Not why did you do this? Do y'all feel it, the difference?
This lesson's not accusatory, it's more
Right.
understanding.
And we want them thinking. We're trying to teach them cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. And that's one of the key things with Love and Logic is that we want to give parents the skills on how to develop that brain development, their self-concept of cause and effect, cause and effect. What I do, what's the outcome? What I do, what's the outcome? Okay? Is there more questions?
With COVID, it was hard for my son to be around other kids, so he unfortunately resorted to people he doesn't know on the internet to talk about things. How would you? And we're like, we need to know. And he's like, why? That's privacy issues. And
So,
we would like to know.
if you're not watching your child take a shower, or use the bathroom, or get dressed, you've respected their privacy. You are disrespecting their privacy if you're watching them shower, use the bathroom, or get dressed. Everything else is not a violation of their privacy. Okay? The cell phone, it should be in an 18-year-old, unless they've changed contract rules, you have to be 18 to get a cell phone contract. Am I wrong?
You're good, honey.
Nope, you are right on the money.
Okay, so if then, and this is a true story. Charlotte Mecklenburg police came to a house, knocked on the guy's door, and was going to arrest him for porn on his phone.
Oh gosh.
And I'm going to tell you, I do some administrative work for a restaurant, so they contacted me, and they told me they traced the IP address to a phone to an apartment that we were leasing to somebody. Okay, they trace the phones when there's any kind of inappropriate sexual things going on. Okay, and so that's why we tell the parents, do you want to go to jail? Okay. Because you will get arrested because it's your phone. And how many people that are out there saying, it was my kid's phone? Okay, and maybe it was the kid's phone, but maybe it wasn't. And I can tell you, our sex crimes department at Charlotte Mecklenburg, they don't care.
They don't care.
Okay, so if it's on your phone, it's in your name, it's your contract, you're responsible. So if you don't give me any reason to look, I might not. But that doesn't mean I won't. And sometimes they need to know that I'm not going to throw my kids to go swim out in the ocean, which is what the internet is, okay? And I need to have my kids swimming in a swimming pool first, and then maybe into, the beach, and then maybe a lake, right? I'm not throwing them into the ocean, and that's what parents do. We expect our kids to know how to handle themselves on the internet, and they can't. So we have to, explain to them, I need to do what I feel right about, and this doesn't make me feel good. And what's most important is that I feel good, because I'm the one that's got to go to work tomorrow and pay the bills. And I want to feel good. And I want to sleep. And I'm not going to sleep if I know you have internet access after I'm sleeping. I'm not going to open my windows and let strange men or women or anybody come in my house, right? But when I turn on, I let the internet run all night long, and you have your pad and you have your phone or you have your laptop and it's in your bedroom, then I have no control, and I can't say what's going on. And I don't sleep when that's happening. I need to sleep. So in order for me to sleep, all technology gets plugged in right here in this charger, and some kids try to take it in the middle of the night. That might be a problem for you.
Yeah.
I hope not.
Yeah, we take the
because
phone
I'll
and
have
the
to do
computer.
something about it. Okay? And so we don't let them have it at night in their bedrooms and all that stuff. You may use your laptop and you may use the computer till 10 o'clock at night. No problem. In the kitchen. In the common room. Okay? So that's why I said some of these things are practical, but they're not always easy. And if you've already been allowing the kids to do stuff, you've already let some fires get out of control, and now you're wondering why you're hot all the time, right? And you have to put out some little fires, and you got to bring it back in. And one of the best ways to do that is to sit down with your kid and say, I'm sorry. You know what? I have to let you know I haven't been making some of the decisions that are in my best interest and what I believe not in yours. I've allowed things to happen that I don't feel good about, and we need to talk about this. Now, don't you think you want more control over your life? Wouldn't you like to make more choices for yourself? Oh, yeah, kids always want more control of choices. Okay, great. I'm going to let you make more control of choices, like your friends, who you talk to, like how much you talk or what you wear. But then there's other things that I need to take back some control over, because that's my responsibility. So that's called the apology take-back talk. Okay? You apologize, and then we give them a lot of choices. We let them know how much power they get to have. You can wear whatever you want to wear. But if you want to go to church with me, or if you want to go to dinner with me, or go to grandma's with me, well, then you can't wear that. Because I don't want you to go with me if you're dressed like that. You choose. Because we're going to Longhorn.
So in this whole workshop, that you said it was 12 hours, but there's also several books out there. Crystal had showed this at the beginning of the year of the Love and Logic Parenting.
And the green one is for teenagers.
And the green one's for teenagers. And there's a lot to Love and Logic. There's several books, and it's been over the years.
But it's not the same as the class. I just want to tell you, this class is different. And also because it's not me teaching the class, some of the things that I shared with you are things, because I've watched the videos so many times, I know some of it by heart, right? But it's amazing. I still learn new things every time I watch it. But there's a video that you watch, the DVDs, and it's of Charles and Jim, and they're actually giving the instruction. So it's like I'm bringing, two facilitators right to wherever they're at. Okay.
But we're gonna get these handouts
Yes.
for everybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna get
on
these handouts
Sunday.
for you. Mm-hmm.
I'll go ahead and get with her and get those printed for Sunday. And that if you, as a parent, if you want them, we'll
Or by
pack them
next week,
together.
let's just say
Or
or
by
by
next
next
week,
week, yeah.
we're gonna work it together so we can have them and stuff like that. But that's one of the things that it's. I think there's so much that
And I
we
do
can
want to tell you
take
about
back.
an additional resource. I apologize to pick up.
It's
Another
okay.
resource for Love and Logic is the relatives, and they're just right down the road, right off of Freedom. Is anybody familiar with the relatives? They offer a lot of resources for parents. They started out many, many years ago. I want to say maybe 30 years or something. And they started with just a home for kids that ran away. And it was a safe place to get them off the streets. And it's called the Relatives. And now they have parenting programs. They have programs that help teenage moms. And they still have their homes that house people, And they teach this because I taught them it. They paid for me to go and teach them the whole curriculum. So they're offering it down there. And, they're a community nonprofit program. So they'd probably love to partner with the church.
Yeah.
So it's called the Relatives.
Any other
Anything
question for Catherine?
Okay. Well, thanks for letting me share something I'm very clearly passionate about. And I'm passionate about it because, like I said, it changed my life. And I have good relationships with my kids today. And I know I was able to turn some things around. And it was just by using this stuff. So, all right.
Catherine, I just want to say thank you so much
you're
for
welcome.
being able to spend some time with us this evening. I really appreciate that so much.
You're very welcome.
When Chris introduced me to Love and Logic, I thought, what the heck is this? But then as she began to implement some of those things at the house, I said, it actually works. I was actually surprised. So now, I'm from Nigeria. When I talk to my kids, sometimes it sounds like I'm yelling, really loud. And my wife,
I'm Latina, same thing.
She's like, honey, you're too loud. You're scaring the boys. But I'm soft. I'm gentle. What do you mean too loud? I said, oh, yeah, you're right. I'm actually too loud. But it's great stuff. I mean, parenting is not easy. But just listening to you tonight, the way you just the passion, the zeal, it gets me excited about it. I can't wait to start working with my kids. It just really excitement gets into me. But at the same time, I'm very scared that things might go backfire on me.
Now, I just want to share with y'all that anybody can purchase the curriculum. It comes with books, and it comes with the CDs, the DVDs, and an instructor manual. And over the years, I've helped a lot of different churches purchase the program, and then it's yours. And you guys can set up as much and as often as you want to. It is $850. That's the problem, is that it's an expensive curriculum. But then it belongs to this church, and it can belong to your program, and then you guys can watch it and use it as much as you want to. You can break it down into 45-minute sections. You can, however you want to do it. So I just want to let you know that a lot of churches today are purchasing it for themselves, so they don't have to pay or have facilitators come in, and they can use it. You're a teacher, you could do it. I heard somebody else saying they're a teacher back here, right? There was another gentleman that left. He left already. Yeah, there was also a teacher. So, that's something to just think about as you're, talking to your congregation.
I gotta do it at home first, honey. Before I start teaching.
Oh, but I'm gonna tell you what. How do we learn something? We teach it.
Okay.
That's how I learned it. So it was from teaching it,
You're right,
But
you're
just
right.
letting you know that that you guys can have all the same thing I shared with you. So.
With that copy, if I can get a copy of that tomorrow, mail it back to you.
Okay.
Like this, like tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm gonna have, since that's your hard copy, right?
Yeah, these are my only hard
I will
copies.
make a copy of it tonight, and I'll put it
Okay.
overnight for you to actually get it in the mail.
Okay.
Tomorrow morning, sometime tomorrow.
All right.
Or I can even.
And then, if you're going to do that, let me also just tell them I'm going to give you.
Because I don't
This one teenagers and spring fever, and it's just like a little commentary on that. Preparing kids for the teen world. Give your children the values they deserve. Have a plan for dealing with peer pressure. You can save your child's life. Anyway, so these are all these different stories that are written by Jim and Charles, and I have you guys will get copies of those too.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You know, the most amazing thing about it, she's just actually volunteered to do this without charging me anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're so grateful.
Well, I'm a social worker. There's